Greetings, fellow artists, both professional and amateur and all the ranges in between. So, this is exciting because today I'm going to be recording my first process video of this little thumbnail here. It's a bit of a push for me to do this because I tend to, when I'm painting anything, I just tend to meander, and then I'll pause, and then I'll stop, and I'll scratch my head, and then I'll do a few brush strokes, and then I'll stop. And so I've never really thought that I was, able to sort of record like a whole process. But I guess these are simple enough that I could do that and get away with it. Still was a bit nerve-wracking, but I got there in the end. So we're going to talk about the importance of stepping away from 3D, even though there's a tiny bit used in these ones, getting back into, good old-fashioned sketching and the extreme importance of sketching versus letting 3D do all the work for you, which has been a huge failure on my part, and I'm trying my best to correct it. And we can go into that in more detail maybe either later in this vid or some other vid, I guess. But let's get on with it. I basically pre-recorded the making of this one, and I'll just talk over it. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, so here we are in something called Skull Sketcher, which is free, and I use it whenever I need a skull in something. It's pretty cool. You can change the lighting and everything, so I just drop the skull in. And in the beginning there, you also saw me looking at some thumbnails for inspiration, so I gathered a load of cool thumbnails. Super important to get some sort of idea before you sort of jump in. One of the best compositions on here that I did, I think that top one there, just in the top right, I just was looking at a video of Ruan Jia and looking at one of his paintings. I thought, and it was like a spaceship or something. But just the general composition, give you something to start off on. And so I picked out a thumbnail to sort of get some inspiration going. And it's good to do that, because if you just start doodling on a blank piece of paper, a bit like this, blank digital canvas or whatever, you'll just meander around, and it's much better to have a focus, something that you're aiming towards. So and it's cool because you don't have to worry about ripping off somebody else's composition, because it will change, and this one did. In the beginning it looks kind of similar to the one that I picked. If you have to rewind back to the start to see which one I chose, but by the time I'm done with it, it looks quite different. So straight away I'm just trying to, it's like a battle really of trying to get the right values, and it's a tug of war. It's like going this way and then that way, and then you have to knock that back, and all the while I'm trying to make the piece read as strongly as possible. If you look at how the other ones look, they read quite well, and it's this funny thing when you're doing thumbnails. You can do a few good ones, and then you feel this pressure to, you think, well, I'm supposed to be getting better, aren't I, with each one? But not necessarily. You might have done great in your first one or two, and then you're struggling to get back to there. Sometimes you get these happy accidents. My favourite one so far has been the fourth one, so the middle left, and I think it's pretty good, but to the point where I'm I think that was like a happy accident. So I'm trying to at least equalize that. But it's about the read, you got to have good silhouettes, and read is essentially light on dark, dark on light, and making stuff make sense. So right now I'm putting in some ground, and I had to lighten it up because I realized this is supposed to be a daytime shot with maybe a break in the clouds, so there could be some things in shade, but overall it needs to look like daytime, and the values are just not quite getting there. So those far rocks with the skull, they were feeling a little bit just black really, and a little bit dark, so I've had to lighten them up a few times. I wasn't sure whether the foreground would have a dark silhouetted thing, so I tried a little bit here and decided to sort of try without, and then I didn't even intend for that to be water at the bottom. That was just going to be sand maybe, or something, I don't know, ground, but it kind of just started to look like water, and I thought, well, I mean, I guess I kind of did want it. The whole thing I'm trying to achieve here is like a skull on a sort of little island, so it wasn't a big stretch to change that into water. But certainly it needed brightening up from the initial values. Now I'm sort of adjusting the middle ground and now the background just to make sure that everything is reading, using the ever important concept fog, aka concept cloud, to try and make things really pop and separate, which I've used liberally in all of them, and that's fine, it really works. You don't need to go to art school, you just need to employ concept fog and concept mist, and that will solve all your problems. But yeah, just trying to mess around with the composition. I felt like that was kind of just sticking out of the top and not really being centered. And now just bringing in some rock textures with, I needed something with some lighting on it, and so I just made it match the lighting again, because it needed to look like a daytime shot in some form of lit side. So I'm matching it up with the existing rocks and then just masking it out and bringing it back in on the areas that are going to be receiving light. It's pretty useful. I just keep duplicating the same thing and repositioning it, and fading it in where it's needed. It works quite well. So yeah, this project is just this idea that I have for just like a skull in a jungle near the coast. It's possibly on its own little island, and at this point I just want to say, I took a break for a little while, and I kind of went against the no 3D thing, even though the skull is 3D, and I was looking at research for a ship, and I ended up just thinking, I can't get the right angle, I'm just going to download a 3D model. Bit naughty maybe, because I'm trying to just get away from 3D, but it's generic enough that you could get away with it, I think. So here we are with getting the ship, just download it in Blender, get the right angle, and at first I was like, nah, this ship isn't working, but when I put it off to the side, it just coincided with that cast shadow. And so it just sort of works already, I guess. And it creates a little block for the angle of that shadow, angled left to right, hitting the ship. Then we have the angle of the rock going into the skull mouth. So it's like a zig and then a zag, which is always good in composition. We always want to feel like we're traveling through the breadth of the piece. It's just the concept art, I don't know if it's a trope, but it might be a trope, but a concept art principle or / trope of zigzag, zigzag, and concept fog, as well as having variations in the falling of the light, so shadowed areas, just to highlight what you need, so that it doesn't read as just noisy. And now I'm just going in and adding some trees, which is sometimes difficult because you get your nice silhouette, and the trees are going to add noise, and it's like, is that acceptable? So you have to be careful. Always be careful about noise. Adding fine granular detail is a thing to be careful of. So I've just added just the right amount of trees, I think, before it becomes like that silhouette starts to get broken and look less pretty. Right now I'm just tidying up that skull, making sure it doesn't look too 3D or too phony, making it look a bit more worn, so that it's been chiseled or something. This is just being the sketch. I'm not going to be too mad about the fine details of the skull. For the final piece, I'd want to make sure that it did look a bit handmade, not just like a giant skull that's been plopped down there, especially not a giant 3D rendered skull, because I see that quite a bit. It just doesn't work really. Like, it looks like an actual human anatomy skull that's too perfect. Even if it was a real skull and it was that big, it wouldn't look that perfect. What else am I doing? So now I'm just trying to figure out how to just create some separation, and I kind of inadvertently made some splashy waves. They kind of look right. Originally I was going for some low-laying fog, but they worked. So again, sort of riding on the wave of accidents, no pun intended. And then just tweaking those values again. It was that you really just got to fine-tune. At this point, I'm really wanting everything to just read properly, and then I figured it needed some foreground elements to frame it a bit, so I'm going in with some trees. Again, just being careful not to just create noise, so I had to be very delicate with that. And then I ended up going for, let's see, we're going to do some sky next. Yeah, I felt like the sky could have some contribution to the whole thing. Some sort of shapes going on, and I couldn't quite figure out what. And then another trope, foreground dude. Okay, I wasn't quite sure what was going to work here. I was trying to get the scale right, but then it's just a bit silly. So I got rid of him, and I thought I'd at least use somebody who looked better in silhouette. Now we have the sort of 1, 2, 3 read going on with the guy on the left, the ship on the right, the skull in the sort of in between them. And next up, some sky, I think. We're going in for like a decent angle, because I've noticed when I dropped that last photo in, there was some horizontal cloud going on. I thought, that would be good, because then we have an extra zig to the zag. We go zig into the ship, zag up to the skull, zig out in the clouds, and that sort of Z thing always works really well. So that's why this cloud is going to be like that kind of angle there to complete that zigzag. And there we have it. And there we go. I hope you enjoyed the video and you got something out of it, and I hope you do some more sketching and try and keep off that 3D for a bit. Please like and subscribe and come back for more some other time. Love you, bye.